For today, we're going to talk about some heavy stuff. Return on ad spend. If you're here with me right away, we're going to talk about some 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglash for the WDMA. We got some big stuff ahead. So stick with me today. And don't hit like, hit share. Likes are worthless. Okay? We already know that. Okay, let's start off with some fun. I can't even believe this. It's a love story for trucks.
If I had to live my life,
there's two trucks. One says efficiency, one says fun. Two gray Volvo trucks. And they meet on a cold gray day, and now it's sunny, and fun and efficiency are combining for love. And then I love this part. The fun part spins around backwards. I think it's CG.
hold me now, touch me now. I don't want to live without you.
Just keeps going. There they go off into the sky. And their efficiency seems to be the female. This is funny. This made me believe it was probably CG. Stuff on the beach. Volvo FH, more joy, less fuel. Okay, so anyway, the production was carried out by professionals, both behind the wheel and in front of a computer. Right. Okay, so enough of that. Enough of that crazy stuff. Let's get over to the real news. Okay, and Amy Houston brought that to my attention over at the Drum. And here it says, listen to the article up here. And I clicked on it. I was hoping to hear Amy reading the article. It's not a very long article. And it was some computer voice. So next time I see one of those, I hope it's Amy actually reading. Take the time to read. I'd like to. It would be fun, right? Let's hear your voice, Amy. Okay, so Forsman and Bodenfors, probably a nearby to Volvo agency. Okay, here's a story from the World Federation of Advertisers. Nearly 30% of big advertisers will cut budgets in the next year. And 74% agree or strongly agree that their budget decisions are influenced by the recession. Way back, when we started doing big data stuff, and no one else was doing it, or very, very few people were doing it, the IT guy from Daytimers flew in, and he explained to me that, well, never mind. Anyway, Bob Dorney, who was one of the brothers that founded Daytimers, told me one time that the way they grew, we're going to talk about growth today, so hang with me. The way they grew was to outspend their competitors in recessions. That when times were good, they would build up a war chest. And when the recession hit, they would outspend everybody else. And that was his story of success through the 40 years or something that he ran Daytimers. And I think that's a really interesting perspective. And I think we found that out in the pandemic. You know, the brands that sometimes head-to-head competitors, the brands that shut down and said nobody's buying this stuff anyway, lost market share. The brands that kept on going, saying somebody will figure out a way to buy our stuff, gained market share. So one of the interesting things about the data, and one of the things I like about this article by Steve McClellan, was that they explained that there's 43 multinational companies, and there's more evidence of potential cut and spend in Europe, Middle East, and Africa compared to Asia Pacific and compared to North America. North America said about 21% said their companies would cut their budgets. About half said more than 10%, half said less, okay? This was part of why I read it today. There will also be a further shift from traditional offline media. Nearly half the respondents are planning to cut offline investment, and a quarter are looking to make a significant cut of more than 10% in print spend. Okay, so if you're wondering when the paper shortage will ease up, this is when. That's what I told people from the beginning. I said, nothing like a recession to ease up the paper shortage. But I would also caution you, and we're going to go on to an excellent article, that a third are cutting, but 25% or something, 20 some percent were planning on expanding budgets. Some as much as 10%, about 10% were saying 10% or more expanding their budget. So as usual, it depends on your company, right? But I'm talking with a company this week about moving some of their digital over to print. And so it's, in fact, I'm talking with about 4 companies right now that are saying that their digital isn't cutting it anymore. It isn't growing them. And here's part of why. This is by Tom Roach, and I don't know Tom, but Mark Ritson mentions him often, and sometimes Tom Fishburne. And so I decided that if he's writing it, then I'm going to check it out. So beware of return on ad spend, which Tom suggests is sort of a digital thing. But, back when we used to when I did a lot of consulting for people on their order processing systems, along with Ernie Shell, I found that many marketers were looking at the sales per piece, and they called it, given that they had a cost per piece and they had a sales per piece, they called that return on ad spend. And it was a dangerous metric I could see right off the bat, because we do both. We can model on both. If all you have is return on ad spend, we can figure that out. But it's dangerous because a lot of marketers don't understand that there's other costs involved. So they say, well, if I spend $1 in the mailing piece and I get $1 of sales, then I'm breaking even. And I'm not kidding either. For one of my clients, the owner said, go down in the marketing department and see if they know what they're doing. And they were doing a lot of affiliate advertising. And they told me that, even though they sent out $1 million worth of affiliate advertising commissions, that they generated far more than $1 million. Well, at least more than $1 million. They didn't say far more. They generated more than $1 million in sales. So they thought they were more than break even. And, those guys were pulling down up into the 6 figures, the three digital hotshots. So how you measure is important. And Tom says ROI and ROS lies in marketing's anti-growth core, or allies. It's hard to tell on that word. You can pronounce it either way. Are allies in marketing's anti-growth coalition. This is an excellent article. Again, always the articles are up at wdma.org. We also have a podcast. Yesterday I mentioned the Louisiana lottery, and then I changed it to Illinois lottery later in a follow-up sentence. And so if you want to get rid of those things, sometimes I edit them out, and it makes more sense on the podcast. You can download and you can play it at double speed very easily if you want to. Okay, so what are the dangers? Well, first, ROI is dangerous because ROI decreases as you spend more. So one of my potential clients, we spent a couple of years talking, and this is normal, year after year after year. We should do this. Yes, you should. You seem to be the best. Yes, you are. Yes, we are. And then they go with somebody else. But anyway, they were using a consulting firm, and that consulting firm is well known in the catalog world. And they said, we need to be more profitable. And so the consultant told them, who I actually know, told them you can't increase profits. What did they say? You can't grow and also increase profits. Now I know that's not true because I've seen it happen many, many times. We've actually exploded growth about 17 times in my career, and often it has something to do with either the modeling directly or an observation. And so I know there are ways to do it. But in general, if all you do is run the numbers, here's a graph. Since profit, since spending has a return, has a decreasing, decreasing, you can spend beyond your market, right? You can target to people that just aren't interested. And the farther you get from your core, the less efficient typically your marketing spend is. And so by cutting back, you can improve the return on investment. So when we were just getting started in modeling, I had the privilege of working with Dick Cavella, and I showed him that the models showed the various profitability of list segments, and that we could cut the list, the ad spend, the number, the circulation of the customer file. We could mail fewer customers, and we could cut 20% out of the customer circulation and only only lose 5% of profits. Okay, so that's now in my book I mentioned that Land's End at a point wanted to cut back, and they cut back their overall pages. They keep track of that, and they cut the pages 19%, and sales went down 21%. Or something close to that. So they weren't very good at cutting. So it isn't guaranteed that by cutting you will increase return on investment. John Worth, founder of Woodworker Supply of New Mexico, he said, whenever we chart the results, we see a very few really, really good lists, and then we go down and we see lots and lots of mediocre lists. And we think that we can cut these mediocre lists out and we'll do a lot better. Well, you'll have a lot smaller mailing, so some of the fixed costs will eat you up. Cost per piece will go up dramatically. But in spite of all that, even if you waive all that, then when you graph the results of that next mailing where you've cut out all the mediocre lists, the results will go like this. Again, same, looks same. It's the 80-20 rule. You can't get away from it. Okay, so cutting to improve ROI is a formula. And it's one that your financial team may recognize, right? They may say we need more profitability. And given that marketing really doesn't know what causes growth, because return on ad spend measures a very, very short time window. It's great in digital. It lends itself to this, okay? And return ad spend likewise. Here comes what's return on. It's the return, and it's not really like return on investment, but it's really the sales that occur during a specific time. Some of which would have happened anyway. When was it Uber? Uber stopped their advertising accidentally for about 7 days, and their sales were unchanged. Procter & Gamble changed their digital. They reduced it 40%, and sales were unchanged. So there's a momentum in the industry, that in the universe even, that will keep some sales coming. Some sales would have come anyway. And return on ad spend does not show the causal relationship. It just shows you spent this and you got this. And it's not necessarily connected to what you're doing. Okay? So, and return on ad spend, the danger is that it's calculated using digital attribution. There's plenty. I've done plenty of work with you guys on attribution, how dangerous it is. But what's really great, back way down at the bottom here, skip over to the bottom because we're going a little long. Way down at the bottom, it says, the marketing funnel. It's an excellent article. I recommend it highly. It says, Avinash Kaushik, digital marketing evangelist at Google, wrote an article called Die, ROAS, Die in 2019. I profoundly like return on ad spend. It distresses me no end that companies and agencies all around us use ROAS as currency, inflating its value far, far beyond its minuscule value. Okay? What Tom argues, I can't find it now, he argues that what return on ad spend is not just measuring. The reason that performance goes up as you cut is that you're targeting the low-hanging fruit. Okay? So it makes it so, it was developed, maybe not maliciously so, by the ad tech world to make their platforms look better and perform better than they actually do. It makes it look causal. Okay. Here's the part I wanted. A higher return on ad spend may even mean the opposite of an ad causing a sale. The algorithm's finding people who are going to buy anyway. What it really means is, okay, or like hanging out. So it's not just like targeting low-hanging fruit, but targeting falling fruit. Or like hanging outside a shop and tapping shoppers on the back as they enter, then claiming you've enticed them in. It can mean inadvertently prioritizing, this is the key part, channels based more on their technical ability to tag people than their ability to reach or get attention from them. So what we're measuring often is not incremental benefit from an ad. It's not that this ad attracted people that were really, a new market or a fringe. It's that return on ad spend often is targeting the people who would have bought anyway. Now, with mail, part of the reason we use things like this is we don't know what's going on out there. We don't know who saw our ad. We really don't. Facebook can, you trust them. You trust Google Ad Network or whatever, Google Clicks. That they're delivering clicks, so they must have shown it to somebody. Never mind the bots. Never mind the problems with tracking in the digital world. Just assume that it works as advertised, okay? You get stuff happens, so something must be going on. That's kind of all you know. But in mail, we can actually design experiments that isolate causal variables. And that's the difference. The difference is that the possibility of experimental design, because we know the control, we know the holdout, we know the who got the mail, and the people that get the mail see the ad. We know who sees it. We know who's responds and who doesn't. So there's all kinds of benefits in terms of the actual hard information that mail delivers. Now, I'm not saying take all your ad spend, take all your digital, throw it into mail, because mail takes a while to get the real answers, but it does get real answers. And you can't get real answers just trusting Facebook and Google. It's just impossible because you don't know who saw it and you don't know who was paying attention. The same with mass media and outdoor and all the rest. No other advertising do you know they saw it, but you do in mail. And so that gives us the power to know for sure, to isolate and to isolate causal variables and to know something for sure. And what we've done is we've leveraged that. The modeling multiplies it. So we can look at 500 variables at a time per mailing instead of just the split test that you thought of doing, the A/B test. We can look at things that weren't anticipated. We can get surprises that weren't expected. And unlike this idea up here, my daughter once asked me, what did you learn in 20 years or 40 years of consulting? I said, you don't tweak to greatness. If you want to grow a company, the answer is not increase or decrease ad spend. The answer is find a new market. Find a new application for your product. Find a surprise. And that's the real answer. And there's story after story after story. A good one is Play-Doh. I've been looking for these stories, and there are plenty of stories. That Play-Doh was invented to clean the coal dust off the walls of houses. In your house, you're running a coal furnace, and it puts out this coal dust, and it's on all the wallpaper, and so you take Play-Doh. It was just kind of a gray stuff, and you can roll it on the walls, and it cleans off the coal dust. Well, as furnaces converted to oil and later natural gas, there wasn't any coal dust, and the house stayed cleaner. So what are we going to do? We don't have this cleaning product, doesn't have an objective anymore. And so one of the kids, founder's kids, was tasked with finding new applications. And, I think his kids like to play with it, and whenever my third edition comes out, you'll hear the story better told. But, then they put some color in it, and, it was a runaway success. That's what causes growth. What causes growth is surprises. And so first you have to know what's going on. Then you have to know for sure that it can create surprising growth. So anyway, like and share. Don't like, just share. Likes are worthless. Shares are great.